Aoi lived in a city that sparkled with light. Towers of glass and steel reached for the clouds, and holographic advertisements flickered like digital ghosts. Below, the streets hummed with the quiet energy of a million lives moving in perfect sync. It was a city of order, of technology, of progress. But for Aoi, it was a city with a giant hole in the middle of it. The hole was shaped exactly like her older brother, Kaito. He had vanished a year ago, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. The official report said he ran away, but Aoi knew better. Kaito wouldn't leave her. He just wouldn't. The city felt empty without his laughter, without the way he would point out the small hidden bits of magic he swore were hiding just beneath the surface. Every day was the same shade of gray for Aoi. She would walk the familiar paths to her school, her gaze drifting past the shiny surfaces of the buildings. She searched every face in the crowd, hoping for a glimpse of him. A flash of his dark hair, the familiar slope of his shoulders. But he was never there. Her parents had packed away his things, their sorrow a heavy blanket in their small apartment. They wanted to move on, to accept the silence, and he couldn't. It felt like betraying him. She held on to his memory like a secret treasure, polishing it in the quiet of her room each night. She remembered his stories of ancient spirits and forgotten gardens, tales that felt so out of place in their modern world. He had left behind so little, just a room full of memories and a strange empty feeling that followed Aoi everywhere. She often found herself wandering to the places they used to go together. There was the old bookstore tucked between two gleaming megastores, and the small overgrown park no one else seemed to notice. Kaito had called it a pocket of wildness. He believed that even in a city built on logic, nature and magic could not be completely erased. He said they were just waiting for someone to pay attention. Aoi tried to pay attention. She looked for the magic he saw, but all she saw was the world he had left behind. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through a box of Kato's old books, her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. It was hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of a book about mythical plants. It was a pocket watch made of a strange silvery metal that didn't seem to tarnish. The face was not marked with numbers, but with tiny, intricate symbols of flowers and celestial bodies. It wasn't ticking. It felt dormant, asleep. Aoi clutched it in her hand, a sudden warmth spreading through her palm. This was his. This was a secret he had kept. And for the first time in a year, a flicker of something other than sadness sparked within her. It was a flicker of hope. Aoi carried the pocket watch everywhere. It became her new secret, a silent companion in her lonely world. She would trace its strange engravings, wondering what they meant. One evening, sitting in the forgotten park Kaito had loved, she fiddled with the watch's crown. She twisted it, not expecting anything to happen. But then, a soft click echoed in the quiet air. The watch began to tick. It was not a normal sound. It was a rhythmic pulse, like a slow and steady heartbeat. The air around her shimmered, the gray light of the city bending as if seen through water. Aoi stared, her own heart starting to beat in time with the watch. Before her very eyes, an archway of woven branches and glowing moss grew out of the ground. It wasn't there a moment ago. Now it stood as solid as any tree, humming with a gentle, inviting light. Through the archway, she saw not the familiar city park, but something else entirely. A garden. It was a place bursting with impossible colors. Flowers bloomed with petals of pure light, and trees had leaves made of crystal that chimed softly in a non-existent breeze. The air smelled of damp earth, sweet pollen, and something ancient. Something like time itself. Aoi hesitated for only a second. This was Kaito's magic. She knew it. She had to see where it led. She stepped through the archway, and the sounds of the city vanished. The garden was an oasis of tranquility, a world caught between seconds. A winding path of smooth white stones led her deeper into the vibrant landscape. Fireflies with blue and purple lights danced around her, and a gentle stream chuckled nearby, its water sparkling with motes of gold. This place was the Chrono Garden, a sanctuary that existed outside of normal time. It was a living library of moments, where every flower and tree was connected to a specific memory or a point in history. The garden was beautiful, but Aoi could feel a strange tension in the air, a whisper of danger hiding beneath the beauty. As she walked, the pocket watch in her hand grew warmer. It seemed to be guiding her. The garden responded to her presence, flowers turning their heads to follow her as she passed. This was a place of immense power, a nexus where the threads of time were woven together. She was just a girl from a city of logic and steel, yet she felt a strange connection to this impossible place. It felt more like home than her own apartment had in a very long time. She finally understood what Kaito had been searching for. He hadn't just been telling stories, he had been living in one, and now, somehow, she had stepped into it too. Aoi did not walk alone for long. From behind a grove of moon-petal trees, 3 figures emerged. They were not what she expected. A boy with hair the color of autumn leaves, who introduced himself as Ren, held a shield made of hardened bark. A girl named Elara, with eyes like deep pools of water, had vines wrapping gently around her arms. Finally, there was Kai, small and quick, who moved with a silent grace and had thorns subtly protecting his fingertips. They were the Chrono Guardians, protectors of this sacred garden. They explained that each of them was bonded to a specific plant, granting them unique powers to defend time. They told her of their sworn enemy, the Witherborn. These were creatures born from corrupted or broken timelines, shadowy monsters that fed on memories and sought to unravel history itself. They appeared as shifting figures of smoke and decay, their touch causing flowers to wilt and memories to fade into nothingness. The Guardian's duty was to fight these creatures, to prune the corrupted branches of time and protect the heart of the Chrono Garden. They fought not with swords or guns, but with the power of nature and time. Ren could summon walls of ancient wood, Elara could heal with water lily magic, and Kai could ensnare enemies with razor-sharp briars. They were wary of Aoi at first. The pocket watch she held, they explained, was a chrono key, a powerful artifact that could open doors between worlds and timelines. Only a select few could wield one. As they spoke, Aoi began to notice something familiar in their expressions. It was the same look of loss she saw in her own reflection. They were a team, a family forged in a secret war. They had lost friends. They had made sacrifices. They understood what it meant to fight for something that no one else in the world even knew existed. They were kids, just like her, but they carried the weight of ages on their shoulders. When Aoi mentioned Kaito's name, their expressions shifted from suspicion to shock. Ren's eyes widened. Elara gasped softly. They knew him. Kaito wasn't just a visitor to the garden. He was one of them. He had been a Chrono Guardian, a powerful warrior who wielded the magic of the rare Midnight Orchid, a flower that bloomed only in the space between moments. He was their friend, their leader, and he hadn't run away. He had sacrificed himself during a terrible battle with a powerful Witherborn, pushing it into a fractured timeline to save them all. He was not gone. He was lost. Lost in a place from which no one had ever returned. The truth settled over Aoi like a heavy shroud, but it was woven with threads of light. Her brother was a hero. He hadn't abandoned her. He had saved his friends. The Guardians accepted Aoi into their circle, teaching her to connect with the Chrono Garden. To her astonishment, she discovered her own affinity. The sakura, the cherry blossom, answered her call. It was the flower of new beginnings and fleeting moments. With its power, she could briefly slow or hasten time in a small area, creating shields of swirling petals or bursts of temporal energy. For the first time, she felt like she had a purpose. She was part of something bigger than her own grief. She was a guardian. Together they fought back the encroaching shadows of the Witherborn. Aoi grew close to Ren, Elara, and Kai. They became her new family, bound by a shared duty and a shared understanding of loss. They filled the empty space Kaito had left, not by replacing him, but by building something new beside it. She learned to laugh again. She found strength in protecting the beautiful, fragile garden and the memories it held. Yet the thought of Kaito, alone in a broken timeline, was a constant ache in her heart. The chrono key she held pulsed with a faint connection to him, a whisper across the void. The Guardians eventually discovered a way. Using the combined power of their abilities and Aoi's chrono key, they could open a temporary gateway to the fractured timeline where Kaito was trapped. They could bring him back, but the cost was immense. A sacrifice of temporal energy so great it would cause a ripple effect. The Chrono Garden would be reset. All the bonds the Guardians had formed, all the memories they had made together since Kaito's disappearance would be erased. Aoi's own journey her discovery of the garden, her powers, her friendships with Ren, Elara, and Kai. It would all be undone. It would be as if it never happened. Aoi stood before the rift, the decision tearing her in two. On one side was the brother she had mourned for a year, the anchor of her entire life. She could have him back. She could restore her old family. On the other side stood her new family, the friends who had taught her how to be strong, who fought beside her. Saving Kaito would mean erasing them from her life forever. Protecting her new friends meant leaving her brother lost in the lonely darkness between worlds. The pocket watch felt heavy in her hand, its ticking a countdown to an impossible choice. Who would she save? The past she longed for, or the future she had just begun to build?